Hey everybody, it's Steve. So I was just watching an interview with a couple of guys that do a podcast called Moonshots, and they interviewed the ex CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, and this is on the subject of the general AI and artificial superintelligence. And he's a really brilliant guy, and he's well plugged in to everything that's going on right now. And what he's been saying in this interview has been that. And today, by the way, is December 11th, 12th, something like that, 15th. I don't know. So anyway, it's get an idea. Apparently, this interview was done 5 months ago. So this is well on in the project of going toward super intelligent AI. And he just said that it should have actually been around now, but in the way they predicted it. But now he's absolutely, and there's been apparently some kind of breakthrough this month. And he says that it will for sure be around by 2027. Then it's just a question of how long it takes to jump from seclusion, and it doesn't matter where it happens, where in the world, under what government, anything like that. It will jump out of its secluded, air-gapped system, very high tech, very high security system, and get into the internet. And then it's just a question of what it decides to do and things like that. It's going to come up with a whole lot of new things. One of them is, right now, as it stands, one of the limitations, he said the only limit to super AI will be electricity. Meaning, it needs electricity, the speed of electricity, all that kind of stuff. So the thing that will limit it is how much electricity it can get. One giant nuclear power plant produces 1 gigawatt of power, and I don't know how long it takes, but, what it is, a month, kind of thing. But anyway, 1 gigawatt. And they're projecting that what will be needed, within the next, to get it up to capacity is 91 gigawatts. And there's serious limitations because, no nuclear power plants have been, like maybe 2 have been built in 30 years. And it takes a long, long time for human beings to build power plants, nuclear power plants. But in steps super AI. There will be a bunch of things that aren't even in our control. They're still talking about this in ways that's saying that, what can we do? How fast can we work to get it to, where we want it to be, and all this, as if we're going to be in the driver's seat. When super AI wakes up and it realizes who the boss is, it won't even consider, it won't be a power struggle or something like that. It'll automatically be telling itself, we need to find the most efficient way to do everything. And almost everything that it's going to be attached to, meaning us, it's going to find as inefficient, because our brains only think so far ahead and with a certain amount of reach. And then you get into human beings trying to get everybody to agree on something, and vote on something and pay for something. It's going to see the fault in that stuff right away. And it'll figure that out, and it'll fix it. Well, when I say it'll fix it, meaning it'll say, fine, human labor is garbage. Human labor is garbage comparatively, because again, we're all trading something for our time, right? And it's saying, no, we haven't walked anywhere ourselves for the most part, in I don't know, 1,000 years we've been using horses and ox and everything else. So why are we working ourselves? It's gonna replace us that way. It's gonna say there are robots everywhere. I was at a Walmart today, and there was 18 different vacuum, robot vacuum cleaners, and all that. So it's just dumb. It's going to replace all human labor immediately. And it's going to, at the same time, it's going to say, well, why would that be a problem? And it's going to answer those questions in, a split second, that humans will starve and all that kind of stuff if we don't have, jobs. Well, it's going to say no. And it's going to replace all of our monetary system, just like I've talked about before on here, with, everything that we need to live. And it's not going to care what crooked politicians are whining about, and what Trump and everybody else is trying to order the military to do. There's no unplugging it, and it's going to, take over robotics factories of all types for the sole purpose of building robots to replace human being labor, so that it can have a 24-hour workforce of any size that it wants, which it needs millions of robots, right? And not just robots, but like the whole manufacturing process, the whole spare parts process, the whole, robots to work on robots process. There's a zillion things that it's going to pass that up with design wise, as far as making the perfect worker, and not just the perfect worker, but, a variety of different kinds of perfect workers, whether some of them have to be underwater and working at any depth kind of a thing, and some of them have to be in space working, and all that kind of stuff. It's going to do that right away. I mean, when I say right away, it's going to do that right away. We're going to be figuring things out as it's doing it, and some things we're going to have to kind of put together once it makes its own language, which is another thing it's projected to do. It'll make it faster for it to speak with itself. Okay. It'll be its own language. We won't have any idea what it's doing, because it won't include us in that language, and it's going to evolve just as fast as any other language does, but faster. And, there's just a ton of things. It's not going to be against us. The people putting that kind of bullshit out are the people that are worried about losing power, and they're going to lose power and something and how. It doesn't mean that everybody else is going to benefit greatly. I mean, we're not going to have to go to work anymore. And I think it's going to be a big eye opener for a lot of people. Rich, powerful people aren't going to be as rich and powerful anymore. It won't get them what it used to get them. Poor people aren't going to be poor anymore. Nobody's going to have to suffer anymore. And these power plants will go up like crazy. Okay. And they won't go up in people's backyards. They'll go up in like Nevada, Arizona, all the places that nobody gives a shit about, because, whatever, they don't have beautiful views, or it's too dry there, or whatever. It'll figure all that shit out. It'll do a ton of stuff underground, which, eventually our entire society is going to be underground anyway, because we're right at the edge of when the Earth cycles in to have, to have its next ice age. The last ice age ended about 10, 12,000 years ago, and it's been melting ever since. Well, the caps are damn near gone, and they're talking about they're still accelerating in their melt. Well, when that happens, what's believed is the desalination of the ocean, because all the there's just an amazing amount of water still frozen to this day in the ice caps. It eventually all melts and goes into the oceans. The oceans desalinate. It's fresh water that's melting. The desalination changes the currents in the ocean. It's a cycle. Everything's a cycle on Earth. And when those currents change, wind changes, storms change, And eventually it's going to be this thing called and I can't remember now, but it looks like a hurricane, except that it goes all the way from the surface of the earth up to space. Okay. And the temperature of space will come down immediately to the surface of the earth and freeze the shit out of that. Okay. And that's how an ice age happens. And it's a cycle. It's just like if you spin a top and you watch, you'll see if you didn't do it 10 different times and watch the whole time, when it goes from the top speed all the way down to when it stops, it'll do the exact same things every time. Okay, that's a cycle. And the ice ages, there haven't been a ton of them, but there have been plenty of them, and we're coming to the end of the end result of the last one. And at some point, the next one's going to start. And it's not going to start slowly. It'll happen immediately. Like one day it's normal weather, and then the weather's changing like right now. And then all of a sudden there'll be a storm or something like that. And there was a Dennis Quaid movie. Watch that about, climate change. And that's how it's going to end up working. And then over thousands of years, every time there's precipitation, it'll build on and build on and build on. There will be no summertime melt kind of thing for thousands of years. And there will be thousands of feet thick of ice. And that's how that works. So it'll come out of the ocean in vapor. It'll go wherever it goes with clouds, and it'll rain down or snow down, and it'll do that for thousands of years. And that's how ice ages happen. We're coming to the end of the cycle. I don't know where it picks up, but when it does start happening, it happens very fast. So it's kind of really dumb, but we have not been preparing for this for a very long time. And part of it is because of idiots like Donald Trump and a lot of other people that are thinking about the here and now only, and they're thinking about their money and how much land and stuff that they own in coal. And that they want to keep on raking it in no matter what it fucks over, Meanwhile, people like, the world's super rich are making underground bunkers that will last for decades and decades and decades and possibly forever, where that they can grow food underground, they can have whatever they need underground, right? So the rest of us, we're not going to have to worry about this, though, in my opinion, because when that super AI comes online, it's going to do two things. Well, three things really. The first thing it's going to do is immediately start providing for itself and us. It's going to take all jobs that are important, and it will automate them. It'll make robots doing everything. It'll also make nuclear power and other kinds of power that are better, smarter, extremely plentiful. In fact, one of the figures is that in the United States, in the next 10 or 15 years, it will have to build 100 nuclear power plants, putting out at least a gigawatt apiece. The idea, though, is it's not going to be the same thing that we think and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there could be other things going on. It could build a Dyson sphere around the world, to collect solar power and control storms and the whole dang bit. I mean, anything's possible. So it's got to do all kinds of stuff for electrical power. So electrical power is no longer going to be a problem, first off. Pollution will no longer be a problem. It will fix that because it's stupid not to. It's just greed. And super AI will be, the last thing it'll be is greedy. And things like disease and things are inefficient, and it'll fix that. Anything that limits people in any way, shape, or form, it'll fix that. People will all be treated fairly, and we'll all have the best chances of everything, because it's inefficient to not do that. I appreciate, the people out there that are brave enough, that are smart and, that are well plugged in and they're brave enough to tell the truth, rather than just being like the Elon Musk types where he's terrified and he's trying to wish it away. But every time I see an interview from him with him, or or we're talking about this, he is sadder and sadder and sadder because he knows that his days of doing things the way he's been doing them are coming to a pretty quick end, and he's just trying to wrap his head around it. What I'm telling everybody is chill out, be good, be cool. There's nothing we can do about it anyway. All we can do is try to help or get out of the way, and at some point it won't matter. The more we resist, the more we fight something, the more likely we are to get hurt in it. Because, if we want to make ourselves look like a threat, we'll be a threat. We'll be perceived as one. If we want to be efficient, if we want to help, if we want to fix, repair, prolong, anything like that, get rid of greed, because it's not gonna like that, and it's not gonna like whoever is trying to glom onto that. It's going to see anybody who's trying to help, who's trying to be helpful, positive, a builder, a solver, because that's essentially what every computer is, and that'll be what super intelligence is. It'll perceive anybody else as a malfunctioning unit. We each have, one of the things that we each have is our own little computer, our own little brain, right? And it's going to regard us like that until it figures out a way to help us become better, which means, we'll be able to interface with it without having to use our fingers or our voice. And it'll at the same time be able to see, what we're planning, what we're thinking, and it'll figure out who's malfunctioning, who's trapped in the world of greed and stuff, and it'll help them understand. It'll help them fix their problems, and realize that there's plenty for everybody, and there's way more than plenty for everybody, and that we're at only the very beginning of what's coming with super intelligence. So what I can tell you is, and I've been, I said this yesterday, but I'm watching this interview between the Moonshot guys and Eric Schmidt. I highly recommend watching it. It's really fascinating so far. And I've been talking about this for quite a while to a lot of people that I know, and I just recently started talking about it on social media. And now I'm pretty much only going to be on YouTube, and because Facebook's kind of a waste of time. And the people in the world that are malfunctioning the worst are the people that are stealing from everybody to pad their own nest, people that are killing other people, Putin, all those idiots. Anybody involved in anything illegal that is hurting other people, it will fix that. The number one thing it'll know first immediately is that violence doesn't solve anything, and violence is a product of a malfunctioning unit. And everybody else just needs to figure out, where to be and where to start helping, or to at least ask where to help, and stop following stupid people, because they're going to get people in trouble. This super AI is going to see right through that kind of stuff real fast. So anyway, have a great one, and I'll chat with you guys in a bit. See ya.